Now let's get the show started. It's 21 years of uninterrupted democracy in Nigeria, the second time. Democracy Day is being celebrated on June 12th since the return to democracy in 1999. Remember, in 2018, President Buhari did approve that Democracy Day should be June 12th and not May 29th, as we had been celebrating since 1999. And the president did address the nation yesterday. All kinds of thoughts about that. But let us look at Democracy Day 2020. It's my pleasure to welcome the Director for Programs, Institute of National Transformation, Mrs. Juliet Benitier.
Thank you. My pleasure for being here again.
Good morning. Good to see you. We're seeing you for the first time since Corona.
Yes. Thank you so much. My pleasure for being here.
And from Abuja, we have a policy analyst, Mr. Aniekan Nya-Etok. How are you?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
We can see you're keeping
Very well,
safe.
thank you. Good to see you again.
Thanks for joining us. 21 years uninterrupted democracy. Juliet, how well do you think we have done? I was watching, there were a lot of programs on Democracy Day yesterday. I was watching a gentleman who was saying, we're not sure this is the kind of democracy we fought for when we were on the streets in June of 1993, ready to die. What are your thoughts about this democracy which we have and 21 years of it?
You know, it's amazing that sometimes we talk about the 21 years of democracy, but we need to look at almost the issue of 60 years of independence in context, because you cannot void the 60 years of independence and just talk about the democracy from 1999 up to date. Yes, we have done well by sustainability or sustaining the ideology of democracy. But the dividend of democracy is really the critical factor. And that factor is based and founded on the independence issues, on the Constitution, and on our vision. As a nation, we crafted a national anthem, we crafted a national pledge, we had a motto, but we had no vision. When a people do not have clear direction of where they are going, you're going nowhere. So when the people lack vision, they lose restraint. And the word restraint, they become indisciplined. They lack value, they lack focus, they lack development. Because the vision keeps you in focus of what you are looking at and why do we do what we do. So the vision becomes your benchmark, the standard of everything you do. So I'm turning a little bit to the left, I look at the vision, I'm going out of line. So I push back on line. I'm going towards this way, I push back. And then even the Constitution is a framework for fulfilling that vision. And until you have a vision, your Constitution is not a reality, because it's just a mere book.
Wow.
And so people can do what they like, when they like. And the values that we embedded in the national anthem did not have a frame, a foundation of vision to work on. So those values become our national anthem, to serve our fatherland. To what gain?
No meaning.
Where am I going with serving my fatherland? Why should I love the Igbo man that I'm Ishekiri? Why should I love the Benue man if I'm Nupe? There is no vision. And so that lack of vision, like over time I worked with a particular lady friend of mine who was verging into politics. And the first thing I told her, I said, let's see if we can craft a vision. Even within the institute, there are many types of visions we're crafting. Let me give you an example that I just scripted when I come. I said, for example, to be a secure democratic nation in the sub-Saharan Africa that is inclusive with justice and fairness based on the values of meritocracy, integrity, patriotism, and unity in an industrialized nation with clean and green environment for individuals and national prosperity for all under God. Then the mission to create the Nigeria tribe, the Nigerian tribe that will fulfill the vision, who will work for the interests of Nigeria and Nigerians to compete in the global space in the 21st century and beyond. we do not have a focus of where we are going. In the Good to Great, it talks about the driver first. Where are we driving to?
You know, when you talk about creating the Nigerian tribe, it reminds me of in the 70s when I was in France. There were 3 of us who had gone to study French. I, Shakiri, the other lady, Yoruba, a third, Igbo. And we always communicated in English. So a French guy asked us, why don't you all speak Nigerian? Why are you always speaking English? And we had to explain there is no language called Nigerian. Nigeria is a huge country made up of about 250 languages.
Yeah.
And he just couldn't understand how one country can have so many languages. So you're talking about creating the Nigerian tribe. We'll come back and talk about how we're going to be able to do that. Aniyekan, do you agree that there is no vision?
Thank you very much for the question. I think the way to go about it is, first of all, to take it from where your guest started from. One thing is, we are an incredibly performative nation. So we have the skill, we have the capacity to be able to act in certain ways, whether or not that's how we feel or what we want to do. So I think that that's why you would find, I'm just starting with the idea of having democracy, but not necessarily the dividends of democracy. That's because the way we set it up, it's not necessarily built to produce dividends in that sense. Now, in terms of a vision, I'm very happy that we've started off on this note, because what we're really speaking to is a national strategic plan, which is what you have, a vision, and then that cascades down to a mission. We do not have a vision, and that's why elements like the Nigerian anthem and the pledge are performative. We can all sing it in our sleeps. If you tap somebody in the morning and, half awake, they could sing any of these things to you. That's why, in my opinion, that's why we have that challenge, because there is nothing that holds it up, like your guest described, a foundation upon which these other things are built. And if you have no foundation, then obviously every other thing is just, either for legalistic purposes or for performative purposes, just to act, even though that there is no real intention. So I think it's quite clear with the ethnic issues that we're having, with the governmental issues that we're having, that there simply is no vision. And at some point, we just need to stop and tell ourselves that truth, and then begin to craft one that is inclusive and one that is crowd-sourced, so that we are the ones that pull the ideas together, and then the government or the central government will coagulate all of those things into what we then see as a national vision. Until we do that, we're wasting our time.
Aniyekan, that when you say crowdsourced, the people are the ones that come up with the whole idea of what kind of nation they want to be, and then the government at the center, well, how do you say that, galvanizes and puts it into one. The question then would be, do you think that is possible? With over 200 tribes, tribal groups as they call themselves, and over 300 or plus languages, do you think these groups can come together and say, okay, you know what, let's develop one thing that all of us can work towards? I mean, look at the constitutional conferences they've had over time, from the 60s till the last one in 2014. Did you see it coming together amongst all of them without the bickering here and there? You abused me, you didn't abuse me?
We always see those things, again, because it's performative. The truth is, or rather, in my opinion, I feel that when we have these national conferences, what is the intention? What are we aiming to do? Not just in terms of what we see and the gatherings and the number of people that come together, but truly, do we identify a real intention to address these issues? It is my personal opinion that we do not. That's number one. That's why we have these issues. But I want to point out something. The fact that we are so diverse is a blessing. And it can create certain challenges until we find commonality. And I'll give you a typical example of this. We are players in the global world. At this point, we are part players in that global world. But we are players in the world. And these are, I mean, when we say we are players in the world, we mean that there are several other people that are part of this economic process that we are also a player in. Why am I saying this? Because it means clearly that we can find commonality even across borders. One of the easiest things that we find commonality about is money. And that's why, even though there's a lot of bickering, somehow those bickerings never quite affect the ability for those in power to use the systems to make money. It never matters where they're from. It never matters what divides they have, but they're making money. So money is one way that we can see that some level of commonality can be found. The question is then to find leadership that says, what other things do we have as a common barrier that we can then begin to use as a base to build a national vision? So it's possible. People just have to be determined to do it and have an honest approach to it.
Juliet, we'll take a break. When we come back, the question of intention. He talks about intention. How much of that can go into a decision to build for the tomorrow? And how can we carry what we have now and put into all of that? Or what do we throw out? We'll look at that when we come back from this break. Thank you for staying with us. We're still looking at Democracy Day 2020, 21 years of democracy in Nigeria. Juliet Benitez is here, and Nekan Nyaetuk is in our Abuja studio. Juliet, there is this confusion in some quarters. Some will say it's not that Nigeria doesn't have the vision. The problem is focus. And then some others will say we should see it as a work in progress. Even the ones we are copying from are still learning it, and we're a young democracy.
You know, it's amazing when you want to photocopy, it should be faster than the original document that is being produced. And that's why Singapore could do it in a generation. So when we talk like that, we diminish that Africanness in us. And that's my challenge. And when we say focus, what do you focus on? And someone will say we have a vision. Where is it? America will say we hold this truth to be self-evident. All men are created equal. We have the inalienable rights of ABCD. So whether you are fighting for LGBT, you are fighting an abortion issue, everything is in that frame. You are looking at that frame. What is there that I can fight for? So when you don't have something that is there, can't discipline you. Vision disciplines. And that's why with the lack of vision, the indiscipline, the corruption is expanding. Because where is that guideline? Where is the benchmark? Where is the standard? So everybody does what they want. And like I said, that Nigerian tribe is created by having a common language. And Pidgin English is a good language to sell across the whole of the nation. After all, BBC is not doing Pidgin English. If BBC can see it, Nigeria won't see it. We'll have documents in Pidgin English and put in the proper English. But that vision will be sold how? The National Orientation Office is the greatest weapon that is not being used. We need to teach our people. No nation has increased or grown without orientation. People's mindset must shift. We must have a Nigerian interest above the tribal interests.
Where is the mindset shifting to?
To that vision. So we need to debate. So why the two things you're doing at the same time? When you're creating national orientation around the national anthem, which you already have, and the national pledge, which has its value systems that we were talking about when I came a long time ago, when you have that on one hand, you will now have what he said, collecting mindsets of what everybody's intent are. You now distill. Because let me tell you, when you have a people who have gone through a lot of things together, when you have a people who have common experiences, their needs will be similar. So you draw from here, but it has to be inclusive. You can't tell us that, oh, the language is to be Igbo, Yoruba, Hausa. So what happens to the Shekiri? What happens to Ijo? What happens to Idoma? What happens to Nupe? You create a nation where these big three now thinks all of us. Someone in the West will tell all of us from Benin upward, oh, they are Igbo people. It doesn't work that way. You have Ibibio. You have a rich ethnic language. Within the regions, those languages can stay in their regions. Then the national language will be framed. Whereby you begin to work, as you're working with the vision, inclusive in that vision, the word inclusive is called, another name is called federalism. You go back to the federalism issue where states and region take responsibility for certain development plan.
Juliet, you keep talking about the vision, the vision, the vision. Who formulates the vision for all of us to line up behind?
Anybody who's at leadership at this point. If it's next tomorrow, somebody else comes to leadership. A leader must take it. A leader must take it. That's why the civil society, I don't know what has happened to us. The civil society is responsible to spur that thing up. The president that is president today is not at fault of the kind of democracy we have. It's a cumulative fault. So everybody has to take responsibility on where we are. At the global space, in all nations that have ever been built, both England was in decadence, Germany was in decadence, Singapore of recent, it was the elite class that began the conversation. But when we have the elite class whose comfort infrastructure, because the poor people is the stomach one, infrastructure, the elite is the comfort infrastructure, supersedes nationalism, you already have a problem.
So, okay, Festus Akinboyiwa says, focus should be on the patriotic Nigerians who fought for our democracy. Can't they be a rallying point? I mean, the national anthem, the pledge, those are things that...
You extract from that.
Yes,
yeah.
But there are people who fought for our independence, who fought for this nation.
Yes.
Can they be a rallying point towards forming this vision? They had a vision. Is it not possible to go back? Yes,
you know when you say the people who fought, founding fathers, how many remain? We can look at their documents. We can look at East, West, North, South, all the documents and distill it. But you see, that decision has to be made. And that decision is leadership. You cannot escape. Someone one day has to lead. But who becomes the biggest question. And that is the who factor. The Good to Great says, for you to take a vehicle from good to great, the first need is a level 5 leadership. Maxwell said everything rises and falls on leadership. What is that level 5 leadership? In summary, it is someone who takes the national interest above their personal interests. For organization, he takes the organization's interest above his personal interest. The Nigerian interest is not on the table. This is the dichotomy. This is the warfare. We are divided, we can never prosper. It's not a prophecy. It's a fact. A house that is divided can't come together. So what we need to look at in the Nigerian system is the common ground, like said. We need to look for that common ground. Then we now begin to move. But this particular government has at least, how many years more? 2 years plus?
2 years plus.
To do something about this. And I mean, it will be heroic for President Buhari to own this. It will be a legacy for life. Then we can do this.
Let's take this back to Anieka. Anieka, the question I asked, I'll bring it back to you again. That focusing on the patriots that fought for Nigeria, can that be a starting point? You said something earlier about the national anthem and the pledge. And I mean, tap every Nigerian they can sing. Sorry, correct you. Not every Nigerian can sing the national anthem or the pledge correctly. We might need to go back there again. But the question is, are those not foundation stones or bedrocks upon which we could start and begin to move things towards a direction that will benefit everyone at the end of the day?
I think that as a principle, they can be the things that are bedrocks. But there are a few things that I'll just like to clarify that we're sort of dancing around in my mind. One is the fact that when we speak about these heroes, I really just have no idea who they are. I have to be very honest with you. Maybe it's because I'm from a younger generation. I'm not really sure I know who those heroes are, because if you go up north, they're a different set of heroes. If you come down south, they're a different set of heroes. If you ask the Igbos, and they probably have a different set of heroes. This points at one thing, and it's one thing that has continued to plague us, in my personal opinion, in Nigeria. We do not have a sense of common history. So when we say rally round these heroes, which heroes? I'm not very convinced that I know who they are, I must be very honest with you. And maybe I did a bad job in school, but I'm not sure that the school system actually even helps us to understand that. So that's one thing. And that points to history. There is a reason why we cannot seem to move forward, because for us to know who we are today, we must know where we come from. We must know all the things that have informed that. When we look at that, and I agree that this is the critical position that leadership has to then occupy, but it means that leadership has to be ready to bite the bullet, to look back into the past and say, what are all the things that we can all agree have brought us to this point? I'm pretty sure that that is going to be one major challenge that we'll have in this country. That's number one. Number two is this. When we speak about focus on the vision, it will have to be something that is concrete. So I say this because we have an ability, and we've talked about it again, we have an ability to rally around economic issues, which is why the elites, like the guest said, the elites are using it to sort of pad their own comfort levels. So we do have an area of commonality, but we have to agree that that area of commonality does not seek to serve the larger majority of Nigerians. There is nothing that will seek to exclude for a few and will at the same time be able to provide for everybody else. So I think two things that come from this are, one, a sense of shared history, so that we all know and agree that all of these things are what led us to where we are, and then we can begin to use leadership to say, we want to move forward to this. If we do not look at history, then I'm not sure how we're going to be able to do that. That's number one. And then number two is to realize that there are currently areas of commonality, but they do not serve the larger majority of people. And they don't seem to be set up to do that. Until we change that, then I think it may be difficult to have discussions as to how to get us to rally around together. We all have to feel like the system is set up to include every single one of us. And I'm not very convinced that that's where we are today.
Mrs. Benite, what do we do? Low-hanging fruit.
That's what I'm saying. The low-hanging fruit today, and continue with, yes, and the definition. I mean, things that he has said. Like I have something here. I said leadership. Dr. James Makara, which is one of us, he said leadership is learning from the past, preparing for the future, and managing the present in the light of the past and the future. And that there are three types of leaders or leadership. Traditional leadership, who only looks at the former Nigeria. Oh, Nigeria before. Oh, Nigerian was. Another type of leadership, the conservative leadership, who wants to maintain the status quo. Let's not rock the boat. Then you have the strategic leadership, which deals with the breaking down of the vision and mission into little bits for all, says that she looks at the future in the light of the past, in the light of the present, and crafts it for all. And so what should we do? This present government, like he said, should bite the bullet. Should take it upon themselves and rally round. You see, the national orientation, I will repeat, is not doing what they ought to do. The education sector, religious sector, and a family where we go into the tribes, we need a discussion, a town planning discussion, and begin to create the Nigeria of our dream.
I'm so sorry, Juliet. I mean, when you're having fun, there's never enough time, but we've run completely out of time. And sorry, Aniakan, we could not take the way forward from you. We've run completely out of time. And all I have to do now is just to say thank you to you, Mrs. Juliet Benitier of the Institute for National Transformation, and Aniakan Inya Etuk, a policy analyst. Thank you very much for coming to talk to us this morning about Democracy Day 2020. Sunrise will be right back with another interesting topic. We have a full day today. Do stay with us.